We had I had a couple of bloopers anyway there.
Welcome back to the Scrum, and it is brilliant to be back in a stadium with the fans. I haven't experienced it for 18 months, and it's amazing.
What a weekend. I'm literally still coming up to get some air because it was crazy. But looking ahead, it was a full slate of games across the weekend with some stunning tries, some landmark moments, as we saw at the Principality, some rather tense finishes. So let's have a quick look at some of that best action before we get into a weekend recap.
And here comes Johnny Sexton, his 100th cap.
So it was a festival of rugby across Europe. But let's start things in Dublin, where Ireland were rampant.
Good position here, better than a good position. Oh, Johnny Sexton! Try time for Turnock Johnny!
Ireland against Japan, and there was a landmark moment for one of the stalwarts within that Irish team, Johnny Sexton, with his 100 test cap for the Emerald Green, and boy oh boy did him and Ireland deliver. Some stunning free-flowing rugby, some scintillating tries scored, and an absolute romp against Japan, the adversaries from Rugby World Cup 2019. And unfortunately for the Brave Blossoms, they just could not replicate the form that saw them beat both Ireland and Scotland at Rugby World Cup 2019. And looking ahead to the rest of the tournament, the Brave Blossoms will know they're going to need to find something, potentially to overcome Portugal, but more importantly, to end their Autumn Nations series off in fine form against the Scots, who are on a fabulous run. And talking about the Scots and looking over at what happened at the incredible Murrayfield Stadium, it was Scotland who came up victorious for the third consecutive time against the Wallabies. And it was the maestro, the little magician, Finn Russell, doing things that only Finn Russell could do in making sure that the Wallabies suffered their third straight defeat at the hands of the men in blue. And to the Principality it was, and as you can see, I was so stoked to be back in a stadium where there were live crowds making one heck of a noise in one of the best environments to experience any test match. The Principality, Wales against South Africa, was one of the most intense games of the weekend. And it was the Boks with a rather young, I joke, a 34-year-old Frans Steyn bringing in a wealth of exuberance, but a 54-meter penalty that potentially got the tide turned for the Springboks. And it would most certainly be a miss of me not to mention the inspirational Ellis Jenkins, who just 3 years ago potentially looked at suffering a career-ending injury, but put in a performance that was so inspirational that it potentially gave Wales the opportunity to see the Boks suffer their fifth defeat. But it was the bomb squad, the likes of Spicy Plum, Stephen Kitshoff, Malcolm Marks, who proved the differential, and the Boks are happy that that duck is off their back. No, that is not me, although I did score a few of those. But it is time for this week's Big 3. And there were many of them, major talking points across the whole weekend. Point number one though for me, and when you get to a milestone, to get a memento like this from one of the most respected teams in World Rugby, the Brave Blossoms gifting Johnny with an incredible samurai sword that will surely, hopefully be put on a mantelpiece somewhere and not be given to any of his children. And Johnny Sexton and the Island boys will definitely be looking to channel their inner Samurai as they look ahead to take on the challenge of the All Blacks this coming weekend. And as rugby fans, we love to see free-flowing rugby. We love to see the ball being thrown around and some scintillating tries. But how beautiful is it to see a big second rower like Courtney Laws making a mind-blowing try-saving tackle like this.
Oh, and it's been poached. And away goes Viano. Across comes Freddie Stewart. It's Leicester fullback against former Leicester fullback. And it's the old boy who wins it, but he can't get it down.
And the crowd are applauding. There you go. That's sensational.
So for me, talking point number 2 is Courtney Law's try-saving tackle, potentially the tackle of the year. I want to know your thoughts. Put it in the comment section down below. Talking point number 3. So we have some world-class wingers playing some beautiful rugby at the moment. But it was a replacement hooker scoring a try that any winger, and I mean any winger, even me, would be insanely proud of.
He gets pretty close. Ollie Price again, go down the blind side. Here's Scoobin! Asman! Can Ewan Asman get the ball down in the corner? Great defensive effort, but the feet come up. Trap time. What a finish by Ewan Asman.
So,
hello everybody, and it is wonderful to be talking to Robert Allen Owen, aka Squidge Rugby, today on the Scrum. Welcome to the show. It is brilliant to have someone of your genius in terms of rugby reviewing and thought processes, because before we get into exactly how Squidge Rugby came about, how are you, sir?
I'm very well. I'm very flattered, mostly. Overbilled as well, I think.
And Robbie, just I think for all the viewers, if they haven't heard of Squidge Rugby, I'm not quite sure under which stone they have been hiding or living the past, 5-6 years. But give us a brief understanding of where Squidge Rugby came about. You have risen to rugby review folklore.
Thank you. Yeah, under a very small stone, as you say, and it's now just a slightly bigger stone. I'm still staying under that stone. I still don't want to see too much sunlight, as you can probably tell. I think I always wondered why no one was doing it for rugby. You know, why there was that kind of, there wasn't anyone doing that kind of like both detailed analysis type stuff. And I slowly started to have this idea while I was working at, another job. And I kind of had the idea percolate in my head for Squidge Rugby, for this kind of YouTube rugby thing. And so I made a first video, I made a second video, and thankfully the two of them went down quite well. And here we are today.
I mean, you've had coaches from around the world praise your various types of analysis done post games. I think not that he's the most infamous at the moment, but even Rassie Erasmus has said that, Squidge Rugby, potentially has some really cool insights.
Yeah, that was bizarre. That was surreal. Having that tweet suddenly appear from Rassie being tagged in it.
Your quick thoughts on the Wales Springboks game last weekend?
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. It's such a high quality, such an intense game, just the whole way through. I think it really showed what a good team the South Africa side are. The fact that so much of what they do was cancelled out. Like, I thought Wales kicked better. I thought, they kind of stopped them at the maul up until the moment where they didn't. And I think it was really encouraging for Wales. It'd be nice if we'd won, perhaps, to slip into being partisan for a moment as a Welsh person. But I think there's a lot that both sides can take from it.
And then just to finish off, and I do want to quickly chat about the Autumn Nation Series Fantasy League. I think I came in at number 4,200 and odd. I really thought I'd gone with all the right picks. I actually thought I'd got it right. Your Fantasy League teams at the moment, how are they looking? Where did you actually end up in weekend one?
Yeah, I'm about 440th out of about 600 in the league, I think. So not that great. I've got this awful habit in fantasy leagues of picking niche players from sort of, going like, oh, that's Namibia's best player, and I think he'll do pretty well. And then it not quite paying off, in terms of if you just picked a couple of All Blacks. It's a long autumn. I can make it 400 places.
Robbie, Squidge Rugby, Owen, it was absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you for your openness, your transparency. Thank you for bringing the game to the fans. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate that. That's very, very lovely of you to say. Thank you. No, and thank you for thinking of me. Thank you for having me.
And taking a look at this week's social wrap, there was plenty of action across players, fans, officiators, and boompa! Thomas Williams, that was, as Rugby Pass says it, the most powerful thing on earth, according to Google. Siya Kolisi providing one of the highlights of the weekend. And how good was the Bok captain once again, leading from the front, giving composure when needed, and putting in the necessary power to put his team on the front foot. And earlier in the program, I mentioned how excited I was to be at the Principality. I was so excited that even the fans got me doing what I do best. Busted! And being a referee is without a doubt one of the toughest jobs within World Rugby. And it was one Roman Poit who bid farewell to our beautiful game. And good friend and colleague Wayne Bards put a rather special tribute out for Roman on Twitter. And as much as the Scrum is the review show you didn't know you needed to watch the most, Jacob Stockdale and his Movember showed us content that we all definitely didn't need to see.
So you want to go to a real party?
So, the Autumn Nations Series Fantasy League went live. Stop laughing. I know that I did not get off to a great start despite some very tactical last-minute changes. So there is still time left for me to get up the leaderboard, and there still is time for you to register on the link below and use my password, BH. Let's try get it. I'm still in it to win it. Believe me, I really am.
So looking ahead to this coming weekend and the weekend preview on the Scrum, there are some major matchups across the course of this weekend, and none more so over in Dublin, where Ireland will be taking on the ever-impressive All Blacks. They will have to go up a few notches if they are to stop the steam-rolling machine that is that New Zealand All Black side, because they are just looking unstoppable, scoring tries from everywhere. And just 10 minutes down the road from one of the most famous rugby pubs in the world, the Cabbage Patch at Twickenham, England will be taking on the Wallabies. The Wallabies coming off a third successive defeat against the Scots and have not had the best of times recently against the English. And yes, I will be at one of the most beautiful rugby stadiums in the world, Murrayfield, where Scotland take on South Africa. And I predicted Scotland to beat the Wallabies last week, and I'm so grateful that I got it right, even though my fantasy league team does not show it. But I believe that South Africa will just have too much power. Their bomb squad looking incredible coming off the park. Frans Steyn can kick the ball over from almost anywhere on the field, even 60 meters, 70, might even go to the moon and kick them over. But the Boks, I believe, will have too much. So Gregor Townsend and his attacking-based Scotland side will be looking to test the Springboks in a way in which the Welsh didn't do that last week. The weather seems to be a lot better than it was at the Principality, so one feels, seeing how Scotland went against Australia, that the attacking prowess under Finn Russell will look to put the Springboks to the sword. Before we sign off, just a quick reminder that there is some awesome Autumn Nations Series merch up for grabs, much like this hoodie that I'm going to be giving to the Cabbage Patch to just say thank you for their amazing hospitality. And when I talk about awesome merch, I'm talking about Autumn Nations Series hoodies, beanies, face masks, t-shirts, water bottles. So make sure you tag us with the hashtag Autumn Nations Series on all of the social media channels, because you have to be in it for a chance to win it. And it was so great to interact live with some of you last week on the Instagram Live and TikTok handles. And I'm not sure if I've told you this, but you all are the best fans in the world. So thank you for joining us on another episode of The Scrum. And make sure that you go across all of the Autumn Nations Series social media handles, get involved, give us your talking points, and we'll be back next week.